Hello. Today we are going to be talking again about the preparations for a tribulation event. I have written down my introduction to this video so I don't leave anything out because there's a lot we're going to cover. This video is called First Aid for the Body, Mind, and Spirit. And we're going to talk quite a bit about the spirit, uh, some about the body, although I am not a medical doctor. So I'm going to tell you what I know or think I know. Um, Talk about the mind, and then the spiritual realm is very important when it comes to overcoming anxiety, um, which is something that we all experience every day um, at different levels. And but in a tribulation event, uh, there's going to be a lot more anxiety. So, okay, I'm just going to read you my introduction. It's a page and a half of written. This video is continuing in a series on last days that was prompted by reading a book entitled 1 Second After. That was a fictional storyline of the after effects of an EMP attack that would cripple the power grid. The first video included the scriptures from Matthew 24, as Jesus described the last days. Can't even read my own handwriting. I encouraged a gradual preparation towards a possible event or a tribulation event of an EMP magnitude. I proposed starting to gradually purchase canned foods and drinking water to put aside or store on your regular grocery outings. So just start little at a time. Don't spend all your money at once. Get a few things to have put away in case there is an event that causes there not to be access to food and water. Okay. Again, not trying to create anxiety. Preparation helps with anxiety. You don't want to find yourself suddenly um, without. Okay. The second video focused on the seven letters to the churches in Revelation and the need to have an ear to hear what the Spirit says. I proposed making hearing God's voice in prayer a priority. I also suggested learning your strengths and weaknesses. The letters to the churches described each of the church's strengths and weaknesses. This third video focuses on identifying anxiety surrounding crisis events. If we are prepared for the body, mind, and spiritual aspects in advance, we will be able to guard our hearts and actions as promised tribulation events unfold. Tribulation is promised in the scriptures, and great tribulation is promised um, in the end times. Some people believe it's that the church is raptured before any tribulation. I personally believe, through my time of talking with God and reading the scriptures, that the rapture of the church happens after tribulation events, but before great tribulation. And so there's a 7-year period of tribulation and great tribulation. If um, that's the way you interpret the scriptures and have your own conversation with God. Okay. So let's talk about the physical body versus the spiritual body. The physical body contains a brain that routes messages throughout the body. It signals via neurotransmitters to the nervous system. Now, I created back in about 2015, I created this Overcoming PTSD. It was a Bible study and journaling thing that I created for veterans because veterans were commit, are said to be committing suicide at a rate of 22 per day in the United States. Okay. And that's not happening as a result of um, fighting in a war. They're coming back from a war, without these um, anxiety issues, but post traumatic stress disorder is an anxiety disorder. And so, there are physiological things that we can do, there are psychological things and spiritual things that contribute to um, anxiety. So I'm just going to show you this chart. I'll get it on the screen good. Is this what we're going to talk about a little bit today? But first, I want to talk about um, the fact that we have a visible physical body and an invisible spiritual body. We're made up of a physical body and a spiritual body. And I talked about the brain guiding the physical body. It's like a computer that sends to the physical body um, triggers to uh, have the body react in a certain way. The mind, however, is part of the spirit body, okay? And the spirit body um, is separate from the physical body. So when our physical body dies, our spiritual body goes to be in heaven, or alternately not in heaven, away from God. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. We've talked about this in earlier videos, but it's talking about the physical body being made in the parent's image. It's physiological, your heartbeat, pulse, skin, organs, gender, etc. It's temporary, it dies, it's part of the reproduction process. And alternately, the spiritual body is made in God's image because God is spirit. Um, our personality is there, our capacity to love is there, our spiritual hearing, vision, gifts, talents, etc. are there. Our connection to God is in the spiritual body. It is eternal, it does not die, and it has a destination of heaven or hell. Okay, so we're going to talk about the overcoming anxiety related to the physiological or the body, the physical body. Okay, so one of the things we want to do in overcoming anxieties, we want to eliminate stressors. Okay, so a physical body stressor can be things like, well, they are caffeine, sugar, um, cortisol. If you are in a season in your life where you're going through a lot of stress, it can cause cortisol um, to build up in the body, and so so you want to be aware of the boundaries that you personally have. For me, I recently had a panic attack. Hadn't had one in many years, um, because I got careless with what I put into my body. We all know that um, when we eat healthy, fruits and vegetables and protein and all those kinds of things, um, and we take nutritional supplements for those things that we're not getting through our regular food sources, and we get good sleep and we exercise appropriately, we feel better. We know that. Okay, but I got careless and I had a dose of caffeine and sugar. um, New bakery in town, couldn't help myself. Okay, so bad girl, I know I did what I did wrong. Okay, that's not mental illness for your body to react to the stimulants that we put into our bodies. Okay, our brain is set up to cause our body to go into fight or flight mode, and so we want to avoid the poor eating, addictions, alcohol, drugs, smoking, all of those things are pollute our body. Okay, we want to make sure that we do get adequate rest. So this poor rest is what we want to avoid, and we want to avoid not getting enough exercise, sunlight, um, the things that our body know. We all know our body needs. Okay, so um, is there something else here I need to talk about on the body, Lord? No. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the mind. Okay, so it's important for us to have a positive attitude for our mind. So that includes thankfulness, being thankful for um, all that God has provided for us. We can even be going through a difficult season, and if we will focus on the things that God has protected us from, or has provided for us, um, then we're less likely to have the psychological issues that cause us to have anxiety, because the mind triggers the brain. Okay, so for instance, I'll give you an example. I've talked about this recently. If you've ever blushed, you know that blushing is not something that you can stop. And you can't fake it either. It's something that is triggered by the mind, um, and creates a physiological reaction that causes you to, your face to get red. All right, I used to have that a lot. I am very um, sensitive to external influences. Um, for instance, talking about the physiological, the flesh, the body. Um, I have a lot of allergies, and that's something I probably should have mentioned as I was talking about that. Is allergies can trigger different reactions in your physical body as well. Okay, food reactions. A lot of anxiety actually is does find its place in the gut. Okay, its starting point can be in the gut. So I just say pray about your own body and the boundaries that you need to set there. And then with your mind, positive attitude, thankfulness, uplifting music. If you're listening to stuff that is just beating you down and making you sad and all of that, then you know that's that's the mood that's going to come over you. So you do have to guard your mind. Okay, and I love praise and worship music. I can sit and sing praise and worship music all day long. And um, you know Find that place for you. Talk to God about it and identify your triggers. Okay, because in our thinking process we can um, have triggers that will create sounds, or um, like on 4th of July, the fireworks going off. For someone who has been in a war situation, that can be a trigger for a uh, psychologically induced anxiety. Okay, it's not mental illness. These are triggers to that your mind is now sending to your physical body or to your brain, that's creating physical issues. Okay, again, don't believe me, ask God yourself. I want you to have these conversations yourself. I don't want to be responsible for a misunderstanding here, but I do want to at least give you something to consider, because I want you to be prepared in situations. Okay, so the things that you want to avoid in the psychological or the mind addictions, aspects. You want to avoid the negative what if thinking and labels. Analytical people, and I am extremely analytical, immediately can jump to the worst case scenario. Okay, we can, um, because we're always analyzing outcomes. It's just it's in our in our DNA. I don't know how to explain it otherwise, but we're always analyzing outcomes. So, um, but we're not going to look at the simplest thing that could happen. We're going to look at the worst thing that could happen and then go from there. Okay. And so what that can do is make us have irrational fear, because then we are now focused on that worst case scenario. And we have to learn to tell ourselves, no, that's not the worst, that's not what's going to happen. That likelihood of that happening is very little. And God is with me. I am going to get through this. Okay. So you have to learn some ways to, um, you know, get that what if thinking under control. It's very good for, consulting in business and so forth, but it's not very good for these overthinking. It's going to cause that. Okay. Okay. Also in mind, you want to um, limit television watching that, or movies that are going to um, trigger some stressors through your mind going to the brain and coming out through your body. You want to avoid things that are going to, especially, create those negative, this is what's going to happen to me scenarios. Okay. Also, pornography. Pornography is a portal in the spiritual realm. I'm going to talk more about the spiritual realm here next, but pornography is not good for you. It's not healthy. It's a way of creating lustful thoughts that don't benefit you. Okay. So again, I tell you, ask God about this. I'm not responsible for what you do, but I am going to tell you in the spiritual realm, which is what we're going to talk about now. I'm going to show you the chart again. We're going to talk about the spiritual realm here, and there's a lot that this is my area of expertise, and so I feel very confident of everything I'm going to tell you here. Um, to keep your spirit healthy, you have to be constantly in connection with God. Okay. That means hearing his voice, that means obeying. And because of that connection to God, God is going to withhold the enemy from having access to you. Okay. Um, so you want to have good spiritual disciplines, meaning listening to God in prayer. That's not one sided prayer. One sided prayer does nothing for you. Okay. You need to have a conversation style prayer with God where you're listening to God, asking him questions, and, you know, having that obedience, that willingness to obey, and being willing to submit yourselves to God. Okay. And there again, I have worship and praise and spiritual disciplines like reading the Bible and so forth. Um, that's different for each person. Talk to God about it. Going to church does not create that for you. It creates a community for you, but you need to have your own relationship with God, and just showing up at a church and listening to a sermon is not going to do that for you. Okay. So you have to have your own relationship. It cannot be through someone else. Okay, so the things to avoid are false religions, disobeying God, ignoring God, or worshiping false gods. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about legal authority in the spiritual realm. Um, in the spiritual realm, the devil can have access to you and your family line through um, legal authority. Let me say it this way: legal authority in the spiritual realm happens in the place that you live. Okay, so if you are living in a house that is owned by um, a mother and father, either one of those people, if their names are on the title, okay, or on the mortgage deed or whatever, because it is actually a legal authority in the spiritual realm. So whoever's names are on that mortgage deed or title, um, they have the dominion in the spiritual realm to invite an enemy presence in. For example, if the mother and father both have that dominion with their names on the title, and it does, I'll explain the next part next. Then, if one of them allows, let's just say, looking at pornography, opens up a portal into um, the the home, because he or she has dominion over that um, spiritual home. And so if one looks at pornography and invites the enemy in, the enemy has now access to anyone in that home. Despite that, the other person may be fully submitted to God. Okay? So now God can withhold the enemy from those that are, but they're going to be in a constant battle, a spiritual battle, because they're wanting to submit to God, and every time they're trying to submit to God, the enemy is right there, trying to attack them in any way. Okay, they can actually spiritually attack a person, or they can just keep uh, causing the person to the point that they want to commit suicide. Because they're hearing things in the spiritual realm that they think are their own thoughts, and that's how the devil works. Okay, so now if you rent a home and it works the same way. Now the owners, the people that are on the mortgage deed, no longer have dominion. Now the legal title or the legal dominion is the responsibility of the tenant of the home. Okay, and so whoever's names are on that lease can actually invite in enemy presence into that home. So you're always going to have this spiritual battle going on if those people are not submitted to God. Okay. And so you have to be fully submitted to God in order for God to provide that protection. Okay. He's not going to provide it if you're walking outside the will of God, you're ignoring God, um, you're practicing false religions, all of that. So that there's things in the Bible about not being unequally yoked. Um, and so again, this is an area that I want you to have your own conversation with God about. I don't want you to believe me. Okay. I want you to go talk to God about it, because um, this is a very serious way that children um, can see evil spirits in the home, and you know um can be tormented by an enemy presence because one person is not submitted to God. One of the persons on the legal title is not submitted to God. um, so pornography is not the only way that you can invite an enemy presence in. I want to be clear about that. Any kind of occult activity, horoscopes, um, tarot cards, any kind of divination, false channeling, psychics, all that kind of stuff. Now the enemy has access, and you don't have to do it in the home. The person that's involved in that can just, if they're on the title to the house and they bring, well, I don't even know if they have to be on the title of the house, they bring that presence into the home. Now there's going to be some warfare going on in the home, and that's why relationships are destroyed, and um, you know addictions and all of that happen because um, the parents or the owners, the deed holder or the leaseholder is not submitted to God. Okay, so again, talk to the Lord about your own body, your own mind, and your own spirit. One of the things that I wanted to do in preparation, wanted us to do as our preparation for a tribulation event, um, is, we've said previously, food and water. Um, this one I'm dedicating to medicines. Any kind of medicines that you might need to have on a regular basis. Again, I have a lot of allergies, so Benadryl goes right in the pile for me. Um, I have food allergies, and I have you know allergies like pollen and so forth. Um, and I have allergies to some medications. So I have to make sure that I have Benadryl. What is it that you need to have with you? I recently bought an extra um, bottle of Tylenol, coated Tylenol. I can't take Tylenol unless it's coated because it upsets my stomach. So, talk to the Lord about what it is that you need to have ready and prepared. Um, a first aid kit. Uh, I'm just trying to think of some of the things, but start putting those things aside for a tribulation event that you can get to quickly. Your food, your water, and now we're talking medicines. Okay. Um, Lord, is that all you wanted me to bring here? No, child. What else did you want me to bring? I'm not really sure what the Lord wants me to say here, other than you need to have that connection to God. Is that what it is, Lord? Yes, child. Just want people to be very aware that part of the preparation process is to have their connection to God and hearing God's voice. Okay. So that's a big preparation. I hope you have a blessed day.